My name is Donna Gonzalez. I am a jiu-jitsu, women's self-defense, and empowerment coach. I think the world is a better place when badass women are doing badass things. One of my favorite quotes is, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." I couldn't agree more. So, I'm talking to the misbehaved ones. I hope you like it. Hey, Sara, thank you so much for joining me today. So, tell everybody at home or in the car or whatever they're listening what you do. You are a consultant for all kind of really cool things. And then there's also, you have a secondary company.
Yes.
So tell us everything.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Sara Margulis. I founded Soterian Consulting about 2.5 years ago. It is a workplace violence prevention and active shooter awareness consulting company. So I work with companies and K through 12 universities, any enterprise really, to give seminars, tabletops, workshops, anything like that on educating on violence prevention, active shooter awareness, safety, any type of safety in the sense of, hey, this is what you should look out for type of stuff.
How did you get started doing stuff like that?
So I'm former military, and then after I got out of the military, I worked my way through corporate. I'm an investigator by trade, and I really got into threat management under one of my corporate jobs.
That's so interesting. How do you define what threat management is? Because I would imagine that it means different things to different people, no?
Absolutely. Yes. With threat management, it could be anything. And I always explain it as a perceived threat. So, Donna, I could perceive something as harassment, intimidation, threatening, or actually physical, where you may not see something as a threat. So it's all perceived, but at the same point, we never want to get to the violence piece where it is a physical threat.
Okay. So let's back it up. So you were in the military. What branch were you in?
I was
You were in the
Army.
Army. And where did you grow up? How did you find yourself, all right, I'm ready to go in the Army? What led you to make that choice?
Yeah, I grew up outside of Boston. And so my family, not my mom and my dad, but my uncles and aunts were all either Air Force or in the Navy. And so saw that, and that was like a big influence for me to see that so much pride they had in serving and whatnot. And then I ended up going in New England. A lot of people don't just join the Army. A lot of people go to college. That's just society. That's how it is back there. And so I ended up going to Norwich University, which is a military college. It's a private military college, the oldest in the country. That's based off of West Point. And you're living the military all 4 years. Through that, I got a commission in the Army. And after 4 years, I was on scholarship as well. And the Army paid for it. So it was one of those things. It was
from a military family. And you were like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What was it like being a young brown girl in joining the military? Did that have any effect on your experience as opposed to what you saw your peers having?
Yeah, it was totally different because my maiden name, I came into the Army as Sara McGuire.
Okay.
So I have an Irish name.
I was going to say, you don't look Irish. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah. But if you talk to my dad, he would say she is Irish. So I was brought up
Gotcha.
Irish. But I grew up with that name. And so going in the Army, we wear name tapes and it says McGuire and then U.S. Army. And people were like, what? Are you married?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm
You're
not.
like, no, this is me.
So yeah, this is me.
Do your ethnic background, or was that not disclosed to your adoption?
No, I'm from India.
Okay.
I don't know any family or anything like that. I was adopted at a very young age at 18 months. So
can we take a quick detour? What is that like for you? I have a very deep connection to adoption. I was a birth mom. I am a birth mom. I was a birth mom. I chose to give a child up for adoption. I was an adult. And it wasn't the right time for me, blah, 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 blah. If anybody wants to ask me that story, I'm happy to share it. But this is your story. I'm just really curious. Tell me more about that and how that has affected your life. Because being very physically not Irish, but growing up in family, which makes the military thing make so much more sense. I was like, wow, this is interesting. What was that like for you? Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, that said, growing up in the suburbs outside of Boston, very predominantly white. So I was the only one that
Yeah.
looked like me, basically. And it was different. When you're young, you just like, you don't know
Sure.
anything yet, right? So you're like, this is my mom and my dad. And I actually remember one girl in fifth grade told me after she had met my mom and she had met my dad, like picking up from school or whatever. And believe me, my parents are Irish, like very Irish. And she's, oh my gosh, you totally take after your dad. And I was like, how? And she's, you have dark, like black hair like him, and you have a dimple in your chin. And I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I take after my dad.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like, yeah, kid, you don't know
Yeah.
anything. And yeah, you grow up with that and no type of discrimination or anything like
No?
that. And then you really
Real no kids ever
was
gave you,
not,
like, a hard time about it? Not that I want them
oh,
to, I'm just
yeah,
so surprised.
no, they did. They give you a hard time as you don't look like everybody else, but it wasn't the bullying that you see
Okay.
nowadays. Like, it was totally different
I'm
back
so
then.
happy that was
And
your experience. Was
yeah,
there
it was
ever a
nice.
moment, like, maybe when you got to teenagers, when we're all trying to, like, find that identity? Was there a
Yes.
moment when you were a teenager and you were like, "Oh, shit. Like, what who am I?"
Yeah. Yeah. And it was funny too, because as a teenager, you go through that, especially girls, we go through that awkward phase and acne and stuff like that. And I had it. And I wasn't, in my opinion, I didn't find myself very
Mhm.
attractive. And I never like really nobody really asked me out. I was the one that
Okay.
always asked people out, and I wouldn't wait to be asked out for semi or prom or anything. I was like, "I'm not gonna not be asked, so I'm just gonna
Good for
ask."
you.
And yeah, and they said yes because they were polite, probably, but that was my thing. I was like, "I'm not gonna be
Good for
rejected,
you.
so I'm just going to do it my way."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can kind of hear I work with a lot of kids as a jujitsu coach, and I've always felt like with kids, as long as you don't make something a big deal, it's not an issue. And it sounds
yeah,
like to me that you guys were just like, meh, we're not, it's fine. Like it's not a thing.
yeah,
Did you,
yep. It was cool,
did
you
you
know?
decide to get that because of your ethnic background? You have a nose ring.
No.
Really?
I got this 4 or 5 years
Okay.
ago. I'm former military, I'm married to military, and so we move all the time, and I moved into a new neighborhood, like, totally different state, and my girlfriend had one, and I was like, "I wanna do that. I need something different," and so I did it, so everybody asked
I
me now,
love
though,
that.
so
Okay. So
yeah,
you're
I've
Irish
always
and you grew up and joined the military like the
yeah,
rest of your family. Okay. So
yeah.
that to me, that path makes so much more sense now. Okay. So you joined the military. Was there ever an instance in the military where people gave you a hard time for being a brown girl?
Big time.
Really?
Yep, big time. Yeah, there was a lot being a female in the
Okay.
military too. It was a lot. So with my last name being McGuire and then just being a female, I was in military police and
Mm,
before that I was in intelligence. Yeah, there was discrimination and it was amongst peers, it was amongst leadership, it was amongst
yeah.
soldiers that everyone
Did
really.
that lead you
It
to
was
do
different.
the type of work that you're doing now? Were you like, since I experienced this and I know what other people experience, I'm going to head on the
I do.
threat?
Yeah, I don't think I knew it
Okay.
then. It evolved throughout the years, and especially what I do with Sarah McGuire Consulting on, helping other people just be their authentic
Yeah.
self and find their potential. I didn't know that
Yeah.
back then, but looking back on it and I'm writing a book right now, so, like, looking back on all of that, I'm like, "Oh, it does make sense why I do what I do." It's you don't sometimes realize how you fall into
Yeah, for
something,
sure.
so
That sounds very woo-woo for somebody who's so military.
I know, but I am it does, because it's out of structure.
Okay.
I personally do not like corporate, and I've had to change jobs continuously because I married back into the military and we move a
Mhm.
lot, and so I'm always having to, like, reinvent myself, and I'm always having to reapply for certain things, and I just wanted to take control of my life, and it just came over me in the last couple of years. I'm like, "Why am I doing this? Why am I, like, trying to climb a
Yeah.
ladder that I'm getting knocked off
Okay.
of? Let me do my own."
I love the
Yeah.
reinvention. Get it. I do a lot of reinvention myself. Okay. You get out of the military, you're working the corporate life, or like, how did the active shooter stuff start?
Yeah. Yeah, I left the military. I started working at the Pentagon as a contractor, so I still worked for the military. I was still involved in all of that. And so the investigation active shooter stuff didn't start for a couple more years after. About 2017, I already had an investigation background, being military police in the military and being deployed to Iraq and stuff. And you just do investigations. You never trained on it, you
Mm,
just do it. And so Alaska Airlines, so with my resume and stuff, Alaska Airlines picked me up in 2017 when the Me Too movement was
mhm.
happening. And they wanted me to investigate old
Ooh,
cases like from
interesting.
70s,
Yeah.
80s on the Me Too. Yeah. So that's how the investigative corporate piece came
Okay.
into it. And then I got a job with Boeing. I was living in Washington State at the time. And so I went from Alaska Airlines to Boeing and came in as a corporate investigator. And because of that, we did everything. Any type of investigation within that company, we did. That was our
Mm,
job as that team. And I really got into threat management that way, where honestly, Boeing is a company that has 4 generations of people working. So
really?
you have the real young guys, people coming in. Yeah. So you have the 17, 18-year-olds coming in. And then you have those, and I don't even know what retirement age is now, but whatever retirement age is, and all in between. And so ideas and thought processes and cultures mix and people fight.
Yeah.
So like
What was
physical
the craziest
fights.
story you ever heard while investigating?
So it's not while investigating. It's one of the craziest stories is we work in the
Okay.
warehouse, like right there in Washington. And basically, I get in the elevator and I worked in this like little office that was closed off to the warehouse and stuff like that. But I had to walk through everybody working,
Okay.
everyone on the ground that was working, and
Okay.
they knew me. Yeah, you see me every day, same people every day, right? And I'm in the elevator, and these 2 guys from this one shop end up getting in a fight with me in the elevator, and I had to break it up. And
You had to
I'm
break up
like,
two grown
I'm
men fighting? I do that every job. So but how big are you? Because you don't look big to me.
yeah, no, I'm 5'2", okay? And these guys are like 6, pushing over 6, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And so I get in between them, I stop them, and I'm like, "You guys know who I am." And I don't mean that to be like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
know who I am." I meant it as, "This is gonna become an investigation, and
Yeah.
I can't investigate. I'm gonna
Yeah,
become a
you
witness now."
dorks. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, it was I think that was so that was one of the craziest things. Another one was I ended up getting threatened by somebody who I ended up getting fired. So he was weird. I was picking up on things. It wasn't my case, but I was helping somebody with this
Yeah.
case. And he was faking, which I knew this. He was faking his military history, like his
Ooh, I got a question about
and
that because okay, keep going. And then I got a question.
yeah. So he was faking it. And he had his like picture and had these ribbons on. And I'm like, this is Photoshop. This is totally Photoshop. And he's, no, it's not. And so they're going through the questions. And the investigation was something totally different. But he had it was just a weird case, but I was picking up on vibes that just weren't right, and
The
they
vibes
weren't
weren't
vibing,
vibing.
yeah, and I was like I dug deeper into it, and again, it wasn't my
Yeah.
case, but I'm like, "Let me look further into this." It turns out I did this long report on this, and I had to interview him even closer, but I had to ask about the military background, everything like that, and so I got fired, and it was because of what I found, but it was also because of what the case was too. And he came after me. He sent me an email. He found me on LinkedIn and "You got me fired. I'm gonna make you pay." And so I was like,
Yeah.
what do I do about this?" And I live close to the warehouse. So I was like, what do we do? And I had to call legal and whatnot, and nothing really
Isn't stolen
happened.
valor
Couple
illegal?
Yeah, yeah, it
So,
is. But with a corporate company, they don't care. The military cares.
ah,
So it's 2 separate
okay.
entities, but
So I train a
yeah.
lot of military people. My school's in San Diego, so we have a lot of military people. And what
Yes.
I've learned from my friends in the military is the people who are loudest about their accomplishments in the military are usually
Yep.
lying.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's you that is so funny because yes, they are like
Like the
well,
guys that are like,
fast.
I was in the secret, the one of the high level groups, and like
Yep.
those guys that want to talk
Yep.
about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have a bunch of SEALs that train with us, right? Because my school is like, I
Yeah.
don't know, 10 minutes from like the SEAL training center. And I have
Yep.
learned that the more quiet and nice and reserved the guys are, usually the higher level and the more badass they are. And we
Totally.
we don't have a lot of bravado in our gym because that's just not us. Our head coach is one of the best in the world. You don't come in with a puffed chest because what you doing? Anyways,
Right.
I'm in charge there, and I don't put up with anything. But so we don't have a lot of guys that come in and try and throw around their bravado. But I have seen grown men get fear in their eyes when they see one of the higher ups, and those are usually like they're just like the super chill, respectful dudes that are like, yeah, man, I'm here to learn jujitsu from you, little 5'1" lady. And and I've seen them being like, one kid was like, he trains here, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, I gotta go. And then later, that same person that he saw, and he was like, oh my god. He was like, hey, did that guy join the gym? And I was like, no. And he was like, yeah, he's one of my students. And I was like, like, get up. Then we have another guy. I'm not telling any secrets because he won't tell me shit. But he looks the part. Like he's, I don't know, 6'5", but he's also tatted up. He's Caucasian. Like he looks the part. He was like, come here, I gotta talk to you. And I was like, what's up? And he was like, I gotta go away for a while. And I'm all, oh, okay, where are you going? He was like, I can't tell you. And I was like, are you gonna come back? And he was like, yeah. And I go, is it World War III? And he goes, no, not yet. And I go, what you gonna do? And he goes, don't worry about it. I'll see you in a couple months. And I was like, okay.
I love that. Yeah. Very
like
humble,
not like
very
you're, you know what I
quiet.
mean? Like they don't tell me anything. My favorite question to ask all of my military people, because they go and they come back and we have a lot of people in intelligence and things like that. Like I always ask them, is this one World War III? And they're like, nah, not yet. So casual about it.
Yeah. They're like, well, we'll tell you.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We'll
go
let you
on.
know.
But yes, I'm fascinated because of, and I'm sure you've seen it in the news or maybe you don't. I don't know if you follow that, but there are guys that maybe in the UFC or something that are like, oh, I'm a veteran. And those are people that are like, he's full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of friends. Obviously, I do have a lot of friends from the military and stuff. And I have a lot of friends that I served with as well. But I have one friend in particular, and he was a ranger, and we were both over in Iraq, and then he went to Afghanistan. And rangers have different time frames. They're not there. I like normal, like regular army, like me.
It's like a
You're there for
4-year,
a year,
right?
like I'm talking about just
Oh, gotcha.
deployment, like
Okay.
Iraq. Yeah, rangers are like they have basically they'll drop in. Yeah,
Some
and this
shit
is how
up
it
and leave.
was. I'm sure. Yeah, and then they're only there for a bit, but then they're home for maybe a couple weeks, and then they go again someplace else. So they are constantly deployed with very little downtime, and especially like when everything started back in 03 and stuff. But I have a friend who, again, Ranger, we went to college together. He is honestly the sweetest person I've ever met, and I have full respect for him. But see, he's the same way, like meaning he doesn't talk about anything. He is so humble. People thank him for his service, and he's like, he doesn't know what to say. Or he'll say, of course, whatever. But that's like professional military is. He's got nothing to prove. Yeah, he's got nothing to prove. And he's a great guy. Yeah.
Like the culture surrounding it, because there's what people want you to think, and then there's the real culture surrounding it. I did get to go on. I have a friend who is a part of a nonprofit organization called, it's not Wounded Warriors, but something along those lines. And they take veterans on what they call adventure therapy. So what they do is they'll take them on a mission where they get to ride the 3-wheeled motorcycles. I think they're called spiders. So I have a friend who runs like the West Coast division of that. And one day they went on a ride and they had an extra bike that they couldn't give to some, like they didn't have a veteran to fill the space. And he was like, hey, do you want to come along since I've helped him with a whole bunch of stuff. And he goes, do you want to come along for the day? And I was like, oh my God, yes. So I got to go on there and drive the things. And it was really cool to be at like a part of the group. And there's still chat we're a part of. And it's really interesting. And their idea was taking veterans for adventure therapy, and they'll do 2-week-long rides. And the idea is that the need for the adrenaline and having missions and having a team to work with and having all of that stuff really affects people after they get out of the military. And so this organization, and it's Road Warriors. I'll think of it. I'll put it in the notes. Does that for veterans and does different adventures for them so that they can have these missions after out and they need the adrenaline rush or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Yep.
purpose, okay, we're getting back on track. Sorry, I jumped way off track. I do that. So, okay, so you get out of the military, you're living the corporate life, and then
Yeah.
you're like, nope, there's somebody needs me. I must go do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So did the corporate life. I've worked a lot of places. I did nonprofit too. I did Wounded Warrior Project
Yeah.
like when I lived in San
Nice.
Diego, actually. So yeah, I did that. And it's interesting where I haven't worked the same job like most people do. And that's changing. Everybody changes jobs nowadays, but think of like
Sure.
parents or something like that. They work same place everywhere. So I feel like I've learned enough. I've worked military, I worked
Mm-hmm.
government, private sector, and then I work corporate. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm done. I'm done like answering to
Yeah.
somebody that wants a PowerPoint slide to
Yeah.
look pretty. Like, no, done. Let me be able to help other people because there's no age limit on reinventing yourself. So that's my biggest thing is okay, like I'm ready to be able to help other people. I love public speaking. I'm a keynote as well. And so I love being able to talk to
Yeah.
people and engage the audience. I don't like when I do it, I don't talk to them. I try to engage them and make them think and critically think. And I do that for both sides of each
Yeah.
company. So talking about threat management, get them to think in a way that you're like, oh, I never thought about
Yeah.
that. Like, how should I prepare myself on the outside of I do it for workplaces, but then I'm like, what about situational awareness when you're at a
Mm.
grocery store or at the gym or something like that? Where your
So who
exits.
are the
Like
type of companies that hire you? Who are the type of corporate companies that hire you?
I usually do small
Okay.
businesses because the big businesses have me. So I worked at Boeing. I've worked at
Yeah.
SAP. I worked at Alaska Airlines. They have
Sure.
teams like
That
that,
makes sense.
right? I was one. Yeah. So I was one and they don't
Yeah.
need me unless they need it like big consulting. And I have friends in the field that I'm in that do that for big companies. I like the smaller companies. So like law
Okay.
firms, K through 12 schools, universities, I just did a seminar and a tabletop for a friend of mine. He owns a warehouse in Massachusetts and he owns a company and stuff like that, but he has about 40 employees. And I did 2 sessions, like one in the morning, one in the afternoon, talked about preventable things of violence, but then also showed them warning signs of people and like how to recognize things and how to stop if you see somebody going down
Yep.
the path of violence, like how you can stop it. Because
What's
there
that
are ways,
like?
everything starts
Yeah.
with,
What's that conversation? So when you're in a company, like let's say your friend's warehouse, is it more,
yeah.
are you more there for somebody who's having a mental break and they turn into the violence? Or are you there from an outside threat coming in with violence?
Both. Yeah, both. So I always say everything starts with a grievance, right? Nobody snaps. Everybody thinks, oh my God, Sarah's had it and she's just going to snap and go on a
Yeah.
killing spree. No, it doesn't happen that way.
Really?
There's always a grievance, right? Yeah, there's always something. If you look, so are you familiar with the Maine shooter in Lewiston, Maine that happened
The grocery store?
almost
Was
2
that the
years?
grocery store?
No, this one was a bowling alley on a
Maybe
Wednesday and
that
Thursday
sound,
night.
yeah. I'm sorry. There are
Yeah.
so many shootings in our country that I have no way of keeping
There
track of all
are.
of them. Okay. Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, basically there was issues, right? So his family knew he was having spiraling into like
Yeah.
depression, sadness, like whatever. And then turns out and you find all this stuff out afterwards, like when they're interviewing people, what went wrong?
Yeah.
What went wrong? Whatever. And it's like, a lot of shit went wrong beforehand because he got fired from his job. That's a grievance, right? He was a veteran, right? Veterans deal with PTSD all the time. There's sometimes the VA doesn't
Yeah.
help us, right? And that's another podcast for another
Oh,
day.
yeah.
But
I try and help my
yeah,
dad maneuver that system quite often. It's hard.
yeah. And then there's social stuff too. So he was being talked about on like a social platform in the
How old was he?
community. Like I think he was like late 30s, early 40s.
And he was being bullied on a like social media?
Yeah. Oh
Interesting.
yeah. Like adult bullying is
Oh,
insane.
yeah. I had to get off of it. I
Yeah.
literally, I go on, I'm like on a mission when I go on Facebook. I go to the groups that I'm there for. Usually I'm in several women's groups, so I could talk about my self-defense stuff, or I'll go and talk about speaking or whatever. I'm like on a mission. I avoid the feed. I go and do what I have to do, talk to
Yeah.
who I have to talk to, and get the hell out of there because it's so toxic. And I'm not even being
Yeah,
bullied.
it is. It's not you being bullied, but you're seeing
Yeah.
other people being bullied. It can affect you too. Yeah. So, anyways, there's always a grievance, right? And So he didn't just snap at one point. It was like in this particular case, he felt he was let down by everyone
Mm-hmm.
around him, but he was also having issues himself, right? And but he wasn't going to
Sure.
talk to somebody, or he was whatever. But there's always a grievance, and that's the main part. So I always tell people like, hey, one, human kindness. You know, we all work together. This is me talking to the group of employees at my friend's place. You all work together, right? If you notice, and always use myself, but I'm like, if you notice Sarah comes in and maybe that morning I spilled my coffee coming into work and I was late to work, and like it's gonna affect me for the rest of the day because oh, your morning
Yeah.
started off awful. That's one day. That's normal. Or you're gonna fight with your spouse, or your kids are driving you crazy, or the
Whatever. Yeah.
list goes on, right? But then it turns into, oh, Sarah's like in a bad mood like all week. What is going on with her? Or she's not like her bubbly self, or she's not happy to see us, or she's eating alone now, or whatever. Totally, yeah, noticing things in people's behaviors is a huge indicator of, hey, things are going well for them, or hey, things aren't going well for them. Maybe it is financial stuff, maybe it's relationship stuff, maybe it's something else or whatever. But that's why I always say, bring the human
Yeah.
kindness in and just say, hey, you doing okay? You don't have to be a therapist. You just have to say, hey, just checking on
Yeah.
you. Everything cool? However you talk to whoever it is, make it normal, don't make it weird, you
Yeah.
know? But that's the biggest thing, right? My thing is like constantly don't there's no like you just talked about like internet, like social bullying and stuff like that. There's no need for that. There's no need for that because like these people are just angry
Yeah.
people and they're just taking it out on whatever. But if you actually step in and say, hey, I noticed something's up with this person, because you may not know them on a personal level, like how many kids they have or where they live or anything like that, but you work with them every day. And for most people, that's 8 to 10
Yeah.
hours a day. So you will notice. And even if you work remote, if you work in person, you still know those people. So I always say human kindness is just, it doesn't hurt to say hi. And it doesn't hurt to be like, I just making sure
Yeah.
you're okay, but just don't make it
Mm-hmm.
weird. Don't put somebody in an awkward
For sure.
position. But I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, it's near and dear to my heart because I had a friend that was actually he's an old friend of mine. We all went to college together, but he was killed in the Reno attack back in 2011.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he was sitting with he's in uniform. He was sitting with some of his colleagues at an IHOP in Reno, and somebody just walked in and had a grievance against
Mm.
military. And Reno's not a big place. It's not a big place for military like San Diego is, or
Yeah.
Coronado, or Norfolk, or
Whatever. Yeah.
Texas, or anything like that. But yeah, like that was the grievance, right? And because this wasn't as common as it is now. So back in 11, it wasn't really as common. A lot of investigation didn't go into it, meaning people like us, like we can't just look up that and find out like, hey, what was like problem? What happened? Is
Well,
the
you
guy
mean
in
it
jail
wasn't as
or
common?
something
I
like
feel
that?
like we've been having public shootings for at least 30 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have. And that's the
Are
problem.
they
So
worse?
they are.
Why do you
Yeah.
think that
Because
is?
no one talks to anybody anymore. That's the thing. It's just, oh, I can't handle this. I'm just going to hurt
Yeah.
somebody else instead. It doesn't have to be a shooting. It could be like physical threat, like physical, I'm just going to beat this person up. I'm going to get in a bar fight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that's not good. That's like, when I grew up where it's, if you have a problem with
Just
somebody,
talk
you
to them.
just
You
talk
fight
to
it out.
them and
Same.
kill 'em.
That yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. You have people. And
Yeah.
that's
And
not even like a
nowadays,
physical fight. Like obviously when we were kids and teenagers, yeah, you fight it off, but I think that it's actually healthy to have it out.
yeah, especially with what you do, and that's releasing. You talk
Yeah,
about
but even before
toxic
I did this as a
and
job, I think like it was healthy to have it out with people. So
yeah.
I would agree. I would agree that like nobody in anywhere in our society talks to each other anymore. Do you think this is a uniquely American problem?
So I also work
Ooh,
globally for a tech
okay.
company, and the gun issue, yes,
Sure, for
American
sure.
problem. Oh, but overseas in Europe and in Asia, it's not that it's a weapon.
So it's what a
So
knife and
knives,
yeah.
whatever.
Because there's been like several
So
machete attacks like in
yeah,
UK or something like that, right?
yeah, yeah. Or like it's what do you, it's like your
Yeah.
opportunity. right? In certain countries, they don't allow guns, right? Except for
Sure.
police officers
Sure.
or people like that, or their
Yeah.
military, right? But it's okay. I'm still going to do this, but I'm not going to do it with firearms. We've seen knives. There's multiple cases of people just like bringing a knife into work and like stalking somebody, and it's
Yeah.
common, and it's weird that it's common. And then other things, like certain countries are like, we're just going to drive a car into the building and see how many people
There's
we can
been a
hurt,
whole of those
or drive.
recently too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's not a uniquely American thing. The guns are uniquely American, and you think is it because there's so many of us, or do you think it's because we only communicate through computers now? Like, think about it. Think
This
of
is
these
what.
days. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but I'm from a time where you had to literally call and talk to your friend's parents to get to
Yeah,
your friend. Like, you couldn't even get to your friend until you talked to their older sibling or their parent or somebody. Like
on
on
the
the
house
house phone,
phone.
that was the only way to get them. Yeah. Do
Right.
you think that has a lot to do with
Yes.
that? Like the fact that we are raising, I'm not a parent, but we are raising children these days that don't have to have real communication with each other. They get to talk to each other via apps and text messages, and you can put a little filter over your face and be a bunny or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. This is just my personal opinion. I don't speak for, there's a lot of people in my field. I don't speak for
Sure.
anybody. This is my opinion, but I think the problem is the reason, and if you see school shootings and stuff like that, young kids, right, don't know how to deal with their feelings
Yeah.
because they're not taught that. And it goes back to what you just said. We a tablet. They're texting their friends. They're not talking to their friends. They see them in the hallways and stuff like that, and they'll say something, but they're in class, not listening, and they're just like texting. And that's communication. That's normal for them. Where we're from a generation, and it's us against
Of
them
course
type of
not.
thing. But it's a culture
Yeah.
shift type of thing. But we're from a generation where it's okay. Like in the summertime, your mom kicked you out at 9 a.m. or 8 or whenever, and don't come back till the
Yeah.
streetlights come on. Figure it out and go find something to do. We didn't have phones. We didn't have anything like that. Like nowadays, it's, oh, I can be entertained on social media. I can post
Yeah.
pictures. I can upload something and make fun of somebody. And so bullying is like super huge amongst like teenagers and into adulthood and whatnot. So yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that just people, the newest generation and those that are doing mass shootings, active shootings, they just don't know how to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
So we're bullied. Instead of talking about that, it's and maybe they don't have an outlet, and that's an
Mm-hmm.
issue too. So this could be like a huge long conversation on this, but I feel that a lot of it is they just, one, it may not be an outlet, but two, it's like not being able to
Yeah.
address feelings in a way. And let me just get rid of this person or punch this person in the face, or let me plan a mass shooting. Because now the other thing with the school shootings too, so this is more at the K through 12 level, is fame,
Mm.
notoriety.
Did you
Like
hear about in
they're follow,
Texas that was supplying her son with weapons? The
yeah,
hell?
yeah, it's an issue, and that's another thing too, is what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are we looking at your child who wants to hurt other people and you're assisting with it, right? So that's, at least that's the preliminary information that's being put out right
Yeah.
now.
What's
But
it like when let's say I am a school principal or a dean of
yeah,
a university. What do I hire you for specifically?
so I would come in, but so let's start with K through 12. I would come in and I want to talk to the administration staff to include everybody, like not just the teachers, but the guidance counselors, the principal, assistant secretaries, as well as like the people that work janitorial
Mm-hmm.
services and people that work in the cafeteria. So all the adults that work there on a daily basis, I'd want to talk to them. And I would talk to them like I would transfer this brief from a different brief of the warehouse employees because they're adults, but this one is more like, are we watching our
Yeah.
kids? And I say our kids because they're school kids. I don't have kids
Yeah.
myself, but if I was a teacher at that school, those are
Like,
my
yeah.
kids because I
Well,
teach them.
all the kids that I train my kids, like all the adults that I give.
Exactly. So I would talk to them and be like, hey, are we in class just to teach, or are we actually paying attention to what's going on with
Yeah.
Sarah? All of a sudden, if you pay attention every day, you know what your students are like. Now, there's other pieces of this too. Maybe there's overpopulated classes, and maybe the teachers are over overextended in a way and stuff like that. But you're going to notice one, when bullying is happening, you need to stop it, right? Like that needs, you can't just let it happen. And believe me, like we can observe as people, we can observe when
For
something is
sure.
going on. So if there's a lot of people standing around together, laughing at their phone and then looking over and then laughing more, and you see somebody else is sad or like, or something like that, probably something going
Yeah.
on there, right? So you need to be observant and you need to make sure that you're involved, right? Now, again, this may not be in your contract to be like, okay, I need to be a babysitter as well as an educator. But at the same point, those kids sometimes better than their parents do because you're with them for like all day, every day for, I
Yeah.
don't know, 10, 9 months out of the year. And you see them interact with their peers as well. So I think that's one thing. So I would talk about, I would also bring up the fact of, hey, if you see Sarah, all of a sudden she was hanging out with this group. And now this is totally normal for kids to switch groups, middle school, high school, whatever, depending on who likes each other that day, right? That's totally dynamic, whatever. But at the same point, it's, oh, all of a sudden Sarah's not hanging out with this group
Yeah.
anymore. And now she's eating by herself. And now she's just like writing in her journal, or she's not even paying attention in class. Grades are dropping and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
an issue. Now, that could be a friend issue, that could be a home issue, that could be anything, but it's still an issue. And
Yeah.
again, it's the human kindness piece. You have to look at these kids as humans in the sense of, hey, I'm here to watch over you and educate you. But at the same point, like, you have to be able to pick up on this. Now,
Yeah.
not everybody's a psychologist, but we all understand human interaction. We all understand human
Yeah.
emotion, right? Most do. Yeah. So we talk about that, and I've talked to kids where just bullying
Yeah.
in general. It's like, what do you think about? Have you been bullied? Are you the bully? Why do you do it? Is it for attention, or you just don't like this person, or where are you learning it from? Yeah, there's so many dynamics to all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would start with that, and then we do tabletop exercises. Like I'd give a scenario, like use the actual people, like the educators that are in this class, and use myself and say, okay, like here's the
Yeah.
scenario. Sarah was A+ student, was in sports, all the stuff or whatever. And for the last like couple weeks into the month, and Christmas just passed, you know, she's totally not talking to anybody. Grades are suffering, sliding, not turning in assignments, like not even caring. Started hanging out like in the hallway where she's going to classes and stuff. What do you do? And there's no right or wrong answer, but it puts them in a situation where it's, oh, okay, I never thought
Yeah.
about
They're like to bring this to their attention so that they can create protocols, or do you actually create the protocols for what would happen
I
in a
can,
situation?
yeah, I can do
Okay.
both. I can help them create the protocol as far as every school now has active shooter drills,
Yeah.
right?
So you,
Yeah, I
I see.
have. Yeah. Yeah. It's what the client
Gotcha.
wants, right? If they just need a seminar and an education, that could be like an hour or two. If they want a
Yeah.
tabletop, that could be a day, it could be a couple days. It depends on what they want and what they see the need
Yeah.
for. Yes, I always lay out everything that I can do for them. I can do a risk assessment too. I can look around the school and say, okay, like these doors shouldn't be propped open, but there's no cameras here.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, why do these doors lock and why don't these? And what are the exits, entrances? Where are students allowed to
Yeah.
go? Like all kinds of stuff like that.
Interesting.
And it's not to point out anything bad that they're doing anything wrong. It's for them to understand, like,
Yeah.
oh, like we're so busy educating and doing what we're supposed to be doing. We don't think like that. So
Yeah.
that's why
Why
they
would
bring
they?
in a
That's not,
consultant.
yeah, that's not who they are. Have you ever encountered a situation where a girl was the violent perpetrator?
Not personally, but it has happened. We just had, not we, the US just
Uh, was
had,
it the first time a female
yeah,
did a mass shooting?
it was. So before that one, historically, it's usually
Right.
men
That's what I
or
thought. That's why
young
I
men.
asked. Are there instances of
But
women doing like mass shootings?
so yeah, so there were, so before, let me
Yeah.
just go back. So before that instance with this girl, there was one that was trans. It depends on the
Sure.
database that you
Yeah.
look at, like where that falls. One was a solo person, female, and one worked with a male.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that, and again, it all depends on the database and who's keeping these databases up and stuff like that, but very rare. So if we want to talk about the male female, like Bonnie
Yeah.
Clyde type of thing, but
I would
it's like
imagine that's more
it
common than
oh,
maybe.
yeah, but it's, yeah, so men, specifically young males, if for K through 12, it's definitely young
Sure.
males, right? Except for those like, three exceptions, right? But other stuff in regular corporate world, again, a lot of it is males, but there have been females that have been lone wolves, basically.
What kind of, so if women aren't doing the mass shooting and like the overt violence, what are women doing?
W- For threat
Yeah.
management, like
Or
while,
is that even something that you guys have thought about? Or
yeah, yeah, there are women behind the scenes and certain things that come out after the fact.
like the mom gave her son the weapons?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and then it was the case up north too, where the parents, I think they were just convicted because they bought their son a gun for Christmas as a gift, and then he used
Yeah.
it in
Oh,
school.
yes. I remember that story. Yes. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, that sounds like a whole different rabbit hole that we could go down. Okay. Whew.
yeah,
That's heavy. So, is that you
it
also
is, yeah.
started like the other empowerment business? Were you like, okay, deal with the heavy stuff, deal with the hard stuff? Did you need to do that for yourself too? And what is it that you do, like the empowerment part of the work that you do?
Yeah. Yeah, so the workplace violence prevention, active shooter awareness is a very
Yep.
heavy topic, but I'm a subject matter expert. I actually love, like, teaching about this because it's educating
Yeah.
other people, right? And the whole mission of this is to save lives and keep people safe. But it's a heavy topic. Other one is a happier one where it's Sarah McGuire Consulting. And it's basically, it started out empowering women, which was great. I was so excited about it. And men wanted to
Yeah.
get in on it. So yeah, which was really cool. I kind of
Yeah.
like that. I did a conference in March on International Women's Day, and it was Unleash Your Potential, Empowering Women for Success. And it was a 50-50 group, 50 men, or
Nice.
50% men, 50%. Yeah. And I was not
Yeah.
ready for that. Not that I wasn't ready. I was just like, oh, this is cool. Thanks for supporting me. They're like, no, we could learn something. I'm like, yeah, you could. That's awesome. Cool. So yeah, so I started that company, and I started it with a conference, really. I let it sit for a good year and a half while I was building my other company. And so this year I was like, no, I'm gonna do a conference. And I was like, and the reason behind it was I was asked to be a speaker at a conference in
Yeah.
November for like school safety and stuff like that. And it got close to it, and I was like, "Hey, is everything in order? Blah blah blah." And they're like, "You need to pay for the registration, and you need to pay for all your travel." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "I'm one of the
Yeah.
speakers. You asked me to be a speaker." And they're like, "Oh yeah, no." But I knew all the
Yeah.
speakers because I was just with them in New York like months prior. And so I asked them all, and they're all males. And I was like, "Hey, are you paying to be there? We're only speaking for like a half hour, like it's 30 minutes of your time in Vegas. That's it." And they're like, no, they pay for travel, they pay
What the
accommodations, they
hell?
pay all this stuff. And I'm like, well, what about the registration? And they're like, we're speakers. This
Yeah.
is like them. Like, we're speakers. We don't pay registration. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, that was weird. Like,
Wait, they
whatever.
wanted you to for the event as if you were attending? You?
Yeah. Yeah. So I politely
Yeah.
declined. I said, listen, I'm not paying for this. And I was actually like personally disappointed because I really liked what I was going to talk about. Because I was like, this is a great topic, and I think I can get great interaction and whatnot. So it was what it was. So, anyways, that was like my kind of wake up call is, you know what? Why am I like trying to be part of a conference that obviously they're like weren't taking me seriously? So I was like, I'm just going to
Yeah.
go down. So I did, and it was successful. It was fun.
Good for you.
I had a great time. It was so fun. Yeah. And I want to do
Who are
more
the people that
because
come
it
to
was
your
fun.
conference? Are they corporate people who are like you, maybe looking to reinvent themselves for something else? Or who are the people that are coming to you?
Yeah, so this was the first one. So honestly, it was a lot. I knew everybody in the room,
Nice.
but which is great because it was like totally support what, but the audience was for anybody. It was meaning, and I know that's very broad. The audience was, hey, unleash your potential. That's the name of this game. So what are you doing? Yeah, we work 9 to 5. You may not love your job, like whatever, but what are you doing in your life that is making you
Mhm.
happy? And it doesn't matter if you're 21, it doesn't matter if you're 91. If you like to paint, like when are you making time for that in your life? Or are you working 12 hours a day and you're not doing anything you specifically love to do? And it doesn't have to be for money. It's not unleash your potential, go find your next job as an entrepreneur. That's what I did, but it doesn't mean everybody else has to do it, right? It has to be with like what you truly desire, like that you love to do. And that's like super, super important to me because I hop from job to job and I wasn't happy. And I can see it in old pictures where I'm just like, even when I'm out with friends or out with my family, my husband, I look back on some pictures. I'm like, oh, I was not happy during that time. And it was because of my
Yeah.
job. Like it was because like an outside entity was making me unhappy, but I couldn't find it within myself. So this is the purpose is to, hey, unleash your potential. Don't
Mhm.
settle no matter how old you are. Don't or how young you are. Don't settle with what the cards are in front of you. Make it happen. I reinvented myself. I was in a bad relationship and I basically left my job and moved to DC and restarted my life. I was so poor. I stayed with my cousin. We're both military, so he got it. I'm like, hey, I'm coming and I hope you have a bed for me.
Yeah.
Totally restarted my whole life. And that was about 15 years ago. Yeah, about 16 years ago. So it can
Yeah.
happen. Like you can do it. And I'm proof that you
How'd you
can
meet
do
your
it.
husband?
So we worked at the Pentagon together. It's funny, actually. I met him I went to college with somebody, dated him in college, and then he went in the Navy. My husband is in the Navy. They were on a ship together. I moved to DC. This person was in DC. He was leaving. I'm moving, going to
Yeah.
Monterey. And I want you to meet my friends. And that's how I met my husband. So through an ex-boyfriend, through my husband's ex
Nice.
shipmate. So weird, but yeah. But great people. Yeah. So yeah. So we met in DC right when I moved here. We started dating like a month or two after I got here. And we got married. We met in '08, the end of '08, and got married in July of 10. Yeah. And thank God I was in the military before because he is in the Navy. He's always out to sea. He's always training, whatever. And yeah, like it's a lonely
Yeah.
life, like being a spouse, wife, whatever. And but then you get in your groove and you're like, okay. And probably why I have my company is because I'm just always, okay,
Like,
what can
got
I
a
do
couple
next?
months
What can
by
I do next?
myself, gonna start a new
Yeah.
business.
What am I gonna do?
That's
I don't
awesome.
know.
What would you
Yeah.
say your
Yeah.
mission is?
My mission is for both companies. One is for the first one for Soterian Consulting, save lives, keep people safe, understand the dynamics of like why people are violent, but it's mostly the bottom line is
Yeah.
save lives, right? When people are educated, they know what to do, they understand it better. When you're not, that's when frantic and chaos happens. And when you're hopefully no one is ever in that situation, but unfortunately people are, right? And you don't expect to be in those situations. The other mission is honestly, bottom line, help people realize like their potential, help people realize that you don't have to you don't have to live day in, day out. If you're just like like same year, say, oh, it's January 1st, let me do my New Year's resolutions and let me fail them again because I put too much pressure on myself. It's to help
Yeah.
people. It's to know that like you can start, I'm 47, you can start your life over at any year. Like it doesn't matter. And that's what my book is about is never live the same year twice. Like you can start every single year on your birthday and reset the clock for
Oh, I
yourself
love
and
that.
not by age, anything like that. Yeah, it's about, hey, like it's personal to me. My birthday's in August. My goals every single year change. I never do January 1st stuff because I'm like, oh my God, like it's after Christmas, it's after New Year's, drinking and eating and blah, blah, blah. Everybody needs to lose weight after
Yeah.
Christmas, right? Or Hanukkah or any holiday. But everybody, and you probably see it in the gym, registration's up a little bit more and stuff like that. And then they dwindle off. When it's your birthday, it's totally personal. And that's what I want to do. I want to help people realize that, hey, we can be whoever we want to be and not sound like cheesy or corny or anything like that. But I never thought I'd write a book. and I'm writing a book right now, which will be pre-released
Yeah.
in the fall.
Who
Oh my
are
God.
you?
Wow. But I never thought I'd
Yeah.
do that. I never thought I'd go to conferences. Like I see like the back, like how all this stuff happens and oh my God, you gotta get food, you gotta get people, people have to pay, you have to get hotel, like what, blah, blah, blah. I did it. And I'm like, well, how did I do that? You put your mind to something, you
Right.
just do it. You want it.
You just decide it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. One day I'm gonna have a podcast and you're gonna be my guest. Just say. Yeah, because it's just one of those things. So my goal with Sarah McGuire Consulting is truly live your best life. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. I'm gonna be 48 in August. What are my next goals for me to look back on? So my year of 47 is coming to a close. And what did I accomplish during that time? And if okay, I'm not gonna beat myself up. I'm not gonna judge myself because I didn't get certain things done like people do with New Year's resolutions, right? I'm going to go into 48 and I'm going to say, cool, didn't get this done, but still on my list to do it. And they can be small, attainable goals. Like it could be something like on the weekends, I forget about all the healthy stuff like that I do during the week. And on the weekends, because I'm with friends or I'm with my family, like whatever. And I'm like, oh, have more wine than usual or have more bad food, but it's really good. Like whatever. Maybe I change that. Maybe starting Sunday night into Friday or Saturday, or start with cooking dinner on Saturday. That's weird, right? Some people do it, some people don't do it. I'm normally like, I'm tired and I don't want to, but maybe I will. So that's what I mean by attainable goals. And then the big goals. My thing was to host a conference this year in my year of 47.
And you did it.
And I was able to do it. And I did it, right? But my also other thing is like, I want to read more and learn more from like women's groups and stuff like that to see what other people are doing. Like you, I want to know more about what else is out there and like how can we support each other. So that's a long answer.
I love it though.
But
a year's a long time. You got a lot to say.
I know I get very passionate and that's so
I love it.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you so much for taking the time and telling me about everything today. How can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Sure. Instagram is Sara McGuire Consulting, like the at Sara McGuire Consulting. Soterian Consulting is at Soterian_consulting. You can look me up on saramargolis.com. That's my just website with all everything with Soterian. Yeah. And then I have soterianconsulting.com is the actual business for the active shooter awareness and violence prevention.
What does Soterian mean?
It's from the Greek goddess Soteria. Yeah. And so she basically helped people stay out of harm.
That?
Yeah. I wanted it to be Soteria. Like just leave it at the A to keep it feminine and whatnot. But it was taken, so I had to put an N on it, which I'm cool with. It's fine. But no, it's protection and keep people from harm. So it meant something to me. My logo is a lion. A lion's head. I'm a Leo, obviously August. So like Leo vibes here. But yeah, I needed it something to mean. I needed it to be meaningful to me. I didn't want to start a company that meant nothing and that like people do that and then they sell them. I don't want to do that. I want my name, my legacy to stay with this.
No, like that. It's you. Also, I would submit to you, and this is what I tell women when they come to my self-defense seminars, that speaking of lions, lionesses are, females in nature are the fiercest warriors.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense to me.
Oh,
it's not, the lion's the king of the jungle, but the lionesses they're the hunters. They're the ones to be feared.
They're the hunters. Yeah, they're the ones that they do all the work. Yes. Just saying.
Sounds so familiar.
I know. Yeah. No, but so absolutely true. Yeah. So it's one of those things that near and dear to my heart. And then Sara McGuire Consulting, I left it because I used my maiden name. It's an Irish twist.
I love it.
So it has just the green, the gold, the white emblem, and the Trinity knot. So
I love it.
So I had to just stay true to my roots on that part too. So
I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. This was so interesting to hear your story, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Maybe I'll get to come to one of your conferences.
Yes. Oh my god. I want you to be
I
a
would love
speaker on
that.
one of my conferences. Yes. Thank you so
Thank
much. I
you.
really
I'll talk to you
appreciate it.
soon.
Okay. Yep. Bye-bye.